In the heart of the dense forest, where sunlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy of ancient trees, there stood a beautifully secluded hunting cabin. Home to many tales of horror and tragedy, it had long been abandoned and forgotten by most. It lay dormant, waiting patiently for the arrival of unsuspecting souls who would dare to enter its forsaken realm. One stormy night, as the heavens unleashed a torrential downpour, a young adventurer named Jack found himself lost amidst the labyrinth of towering trees. The rugged wilderness had swallowed him whole, leaving him disoriented and desperate for shelter. Fatigued and drenched to the bone, he stumbled upon the decrepit hunting cabin. Relieved to discover a refuge from the relentless storm, Jack cautiously pushed open the creaking door. The inside was submerged in darkness, and the only source of light came from jagged cracks in the rotten wooden walls. With each step he took, the floorboards groaned beneath his weight, unsettling his already anxious heart. Sighing with a mix of relief and trepidation, Jack decided to make himself comfortable for the night. He hoped the storm would pass by morning, allowing him to find his way back home. Sitting by a dim candle, the soft flickering of the flame mimicking his uneasiness, he tried to ignore the oppressive atmosphere that seemed to suffocate the cabin's interior. Lost in his own thoughts, Jack was startled by a series of sharp knocks on the cabin door. His breath caught in his throat as the rain pounded relentlessly against the window panes. Fear consumed him, every nerve on edge as he reluctantly approached the door, his hand shaking as he grasped the rusty doorknob. As the door cracked open, a sudden gust of wind swept into the cabin, extinguishing the candle and plunging the room into complete darkness. A spine-chilling echo reverberated through the cabin as a chorus of inhuman voices whispered eerie warnings hidden within the howling wind. Jack's blood turned to ice as he realized he was not alone in the woods. Devoid of sight, Jack stumbled blindly through the claustrophobic cabin, his hands desperately groping for an escape. But every door he attempted to open led to another room, as if the cabin itself had conspired against him. The once comforting scent of nature outside turned foul and putrid, suffocating him with every breath. The storm raged on, matching the frantic pounding of Jack's heart. Beads of cold sweat dripped down his forehead as he retreated deeper into the horrifying unknown. Shadows danced menacingly around him, whispering the unspoken fears of all who had been swallowed by the cabin's sinister secrets. Just as hope began to fade, an ethereal figure materialized before Jack. A lost soul who had met a grim fate within these woods, now seeking company in his solitude. The figure warned Jack of the cabin's curse, one that would seal his fate for eternity if he did not escape. With a voice like the slow decay of nature itself, the figure urged Jack to flee while he still could. Driven by sheer terror, Jack fought through the darkness, finally reaching the cabin's entrance. As the door swung open, the torrential rain struck him with a force he had never felt before. He sprinted blindly, branches and thorns cutting at his skin, as if the forest too had turned against him. Finally, catching a glimpse of a familiar road, he stumbled out of the woods and collapsed onto the wet asphalt. Panting heavily, Jack looked back at the haunted cabin, its malevolent presence lingering on the edge of the forest. He swore he could hear its ominous whispers even beyond those trees. And as he recollected the terrifying ordeal, he vowed never to return to the woods during a storm, a stark reminder of the dangers that lie hidden within the dark embrace of nature. I had always loved the wilderness, the feeling of being surrounded by towering trees and the soft rustling of leaves on the forest floor. So when I finally decided to go on my first solo camping trip, I couldn't contain my excitement. I chose a remote area deep in the woods, far away from the noise and distractions of civilization. Little did I know, this decision would lead me to an experience that would forever haunt my nightmares. As I ventured further into the woods, the light of day gradually dimmed. The dense canopy blocked out the sun, allowing only dappled shadows to find their way to the forest floor. Placing my tent near a picturesque stream, I marveled at the tranquility that surrounded me. It felt like I was the first person to ever set foot in this sacred part of nature. As dusk settled in, I started a fire, devouring a light meal as darkness washed over the forest. The crackling flames provided a sense of comfort, their warm glow warding off the growing sense of unease inside me. The screech of a distant owl sent shivers down my spine, reminding me that I was not alone in this untamed wilderness. Staring into the heart of the fire, my imagination began to play tricks on me. Shadows danced and contorted on the trees around me, their sinuous forms mimicking the movements of creatures lurking just out of sight. An eerie silence fell over the forest, broken occasionally by snapping twigs or the distant hooting of the owl. I retreated into my tent, zipping it tight to create a shield against the unknown. Lying on my back, I listened to the symphony of the woods. The whispering wind carried whispers of secrets lost to time, while the rustling leaves told tales of unseen creatures stalking their prey. Suddenly, the forest went silent. Not a sound could be heard, and the air grew heavy with an otherworldly stillness. My heart thudded in my chest, each beat reverberating throughout my entire body. I strained my ears, desperately trying to detect the slightest sign of movement. But the silence was deafening. Fear swept over me like a cold gust of wind, causing me to tremble uncontrollably. That's when I heard it. A low, guttural growl. It seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere all at once. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end, my mind racing, searching for a rational explanation. I summoned all my courage and unzipped the tent, peering out into the inky blackness. What I saw froze me to the core, a pair of glowing yellow eyes emerging from the shadows. They stared straight into my soul, reflecting a malevolence that scarred me. The creature growled again, louder and more menacing this time, its feral nature simmering just beneath the surface. I wanted to scream, to run as fast as my legs could carry me, but I was paralyzed by fear. Darkness encroached on my vision, seemingly swallowing me whole as the creature stepped closer. With each step, its shadowy form grew larger, its predatory instincts taking over. In a desperate attempt to save myself, I fumbled for my flashlight, blindly grasping at it with trembling hands. I mustered every ounce of bravery left within me and shone the piercing beam towards the creature, ready to face whatever nightmare lurked in the darkness. But as the light illuminated the woods, my fears dissolved into thin air. The creature that stood before me wasn't some monstrous beast, but instead a beautiful, majestic wolf. Its eyes reflected a blend of curiosity and caution, a wild spirit that had unknowingly terrified me beyond belief. I suddenly realized that I had allowed my own imagination to conjure the terror that held me captive. The darkness had exposed the shadows of my mind, transforming the solitude of the woods into a sinister labyrinth of fear. From that day on, I learned to respect the power of my own thoughts, understanding that sometimes the true danger lies within ourselves. As I packed up my tent the following morning, I bid farewell to the haunting experience that had changed me forever. The woods would forever remain an enchanting place, but I would always remember that night as a reminder of the perils that can sometimes arise beneath the moonlit canopy.
As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest, I found myself alone in my tent, surrounded by nature's haunting silence. The air was thick with anticipation, as if nature itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to unfold. As I lay inside my tent, the sounds of the forest came alive. Branches creaked and groaned, as if they were ancient spirits whispering secrets to each other. The leaves rustled and hissed, creating a symphony of eerie whispers. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves sent shivers down my spine. The silence was broken by the distant rumble of thunder. The sound echoed through the forest, growing louder and closer. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. The rain started as a gentle patter, then quickly escalated into a torrential downpour. The wind howled like a banshee, and the tent quivered and shook, threatening to collapse under the onslaught of nature's fury. As the storm raged outside, my imagination ran wild. Every shadow, every creak and groan of the tent seemed like a sinister presence lurking in the darkness. I kept imagining things moving outside the tent, creatures with glowing eyes and sharp claws. My mind played tricks on me, turning the innocent sounds of the forest into terrifying harbingers of doom. The night dragged on, stretching into an eternity. Each passing hour felt like a lifetime, and I began to question my sanity. The darkness enveloped me, isolating me from the world, and I felt a sense of despair creeping in. Just when I thought I couldn't endure the night alone, a faint glimmer of light appeared in the distance. The storm had passed, and the first rays of dawn were peeking over the horizon. I crawled out of my tent, shivering and exhausted. The forest was still dripping with rain, and the air was filled with the scent of damp earth. I looked around, and the world seemed transformed. The trees, which had seemed menacing in the darkness, now stood tall and majestic, glistening with raindrops. As I packed up my belongings, I couldn't help but reflect on the night I had just endured. It had been a terrifying experience, but it had also been a profound reminder of the power of nature. The night had played tricks with my mind, turning the ordinary into the sinister. But with the dawn, the night's shadows dissipated, and the forest once again became a place of beauty and wonder. In the heart of the whispering woods, where shadows danced and mysteries lurked, I embarked on a solo camping adventure, yearning to immerse myself in the raw beauty of nature. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the verdant expanse, I erected my humble tent, a sanctuary amidst the untamed wilderness. With the last rays of sunlight fading into twilight, I ventured out to explore my surroundings. The symphony of nature enveloped me, the gentle rustling of leaves, the distant hooting of an owl, and the soft gurgle of a nearby stream. A sense of awe washed over me as I marveled at the intricate tapestry of life that unfolded before my eyes. As darkness descended, I retreated to my tent, eager to embrace the solitude and tranquility of the night. However, as the hours passed, a symphony of strange and unfamiliar noises began to weave its way into my consciousness. Every creak, every rustle, every distant sound became a potential harbinger of danger, my imagination conjuring up all manner of terrifying scenarios. My heart pounded in my chest, my senses heightened, every nerve on edge. The darkness seemed to press in on me, suffocating, enveloping me in a blanket of fear. I strained my ears, desperate to identify the source of each unsettling sound. My mind racing through a catalog of possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. The night stretched on interminably, each minute feeling like an eternity. With every passing hour, my resolve began to crumble. The allure of nature, once so captivating, now seemed menacing and unforgiving. I longed for the safety of my familiar surroundings, the comfort of my own bed, the reassurance of knowing exactly what lurked beyond the walls of my home. As the first rays of dawn pierced through the darkness, painting the sky with hues of gold and rose, a sense of relief washed over me. The terrors of the night dissipated like mist in the morning sun, replaced by a newfound appreciation for the beauty that surrounded me. With the daylight, the woods transformed into a sanctuary of peace and serenity. The birdsong filled the air, the flowers bloomed in vibrant hues, and the gentle breeze carried the scent of pine and earth. I ventured out of my tent, eager to reconnect with the natural world. but this time with a newfound respect for its untamed power. As I packed up my campsite and prepared to leave, I realized that I had learned a valuable lesson. Nature, in all its glory, can be both breathtaking and terrifying. It is a force to be reckoned with, demanding respect and humility. While I may not have become one with nature during my night of terror, I gained a profound understanding of its unpredictable and awe-inspiring power.